Okay. Yeah, we're on live now. Welcome to the Fire Authority Finance meeting. We are at headquarters, that's our joint headquarters at Sherwood, and I'll start with the apologies for absence. I know we've got a few gaps at the moment. It was probably either getting in here or getting through the traffic. So we'll just have to await those. I'll move on for declarations of interest.
Sorry, I have got one apology. It's from Councillor Siemens and Councillor Dale is here substituting.
Thank you, welcome.
Thank you.
You'll find a totally different committee because I can't care a damn about politics.
Yeah.
No arguing, just get on, got a job to do. Welcome. Declarations of interest, well, there's only three of us, so there are none declared at the moment. And I'll confirm the minutes, which is item 4, which is item 3. And I'll move those from the chair if that's a second. Agreed?
Yeah.
Agreed on those, thank you very much. Move to item 4, revenue, capital outturn, and that's on page 1128. And that's for our Fire Authority 151 officer, Maria.
Thank you.
Don't cough.
Okay.
No, I don't.
That's right, thank you. Good morning, members. So this report is giving you the revenue and capital outturn for 2025-26. It's the provisional financial performance of the service for 25-26 because obviously it's subject to external audit. So the report sets out the year-end figures, and it has 6 recommendations as part of that. One is to scrutinise and gain assurance on the contents of the report. 2 is to approve the use of the underspend, which is set out in the report. Approve the reallocation of some earmarked reserves, the slippage from the capital programme, a net increase to the capital programme in the future years, and a reprofile of the capital programme as well. So the budget for 25-26 was £57.736 million, and there were some adjustments during the year that amended the budget slightly to the £57.399 million. We've obviously had a principal all year, which is around any in-year revenue underspending would be used to finance the capital programme and basically reduce the need to borrow. So the outturn for the year, which is in table 1, shows the underspend for the year is £283,000. In the January Finance and Resources Committee, we reported it was £371,000.
Can I just stop you a minute, Maria? Just look at the minutes. Thank you. Thanks.
So table 1 is the draft outturn position for the year.
Yeah.
So the underspend is an underspend of £283,000. And we predicted in January that we'd be £371,000 underspent, so it's quite similar. That is 0.49% of the annual budget, so a very small sort of net underspend at the end of the process. In section 2.6 onwards, 2.7, etc., we go through what those variances are. So on employee costs, there was the 92k underspend, but that's made up of several different lines: whole-time pay, on-call pay, non-uniformed pay, pensions and other employee cost variances. And as you can see in the report, from 2.6 through to 2.10, it's got a breakdown of all those separate variances. Not sure, do you want me to go through the complete list?
No, unless there's anything jumping around. I mean, I've seen it, they're coming out my eyes now.
Okay. And then if you turn over to page 16, it shows you the variances on premises, transport, supplies and services, the sort of non-employee areas of cost. Again, relatively minor under and overspends on those lines. And then on page 17, third-party payments, support services, capital financing costs, sales fees and charges and other income. You'll notice as you look through the report, the area where probably the biggest variances is on income, because we've achieved a higher level of income during the year, and that's what's really contributed to the underspend. So additional income from Treasury investment income, additional income from government grant, and some partnership income as well. So and what that's enabled us to do, as I've sort of mentioned, is to look at how we finance capital and actually utilise some of that to reduce the capital financing costs. So on page 18, section 2.19, we have the normal reporting of our efficiency savings, which sets out what our savings target is and what savings we've achieved during the year and where we are in terms of an under or over on that. We're slight shortfall on the efficiency target of £21,000, and that's because we have a target that is a non-pay target. If you incorporate the pay elements of it, we actually overachieve, but the way that it's counted in terms of the returns we have to do, it's non-pay where the efficiencies are sort of focused. And then section 2.21 sets out some allocation of reserves. So as part of the year-end process, we always review our earmarked reserves to see if they're all still required, whether the spend that's occurred during the year has meant a slight underuse of that reserve. And in the list in table 3, those balances are available to be reallocated. So what we've then looked at is what reserves we think we need moving forwards, and table 4 on page 19 sets out the new reserves to be established, which are basically to address specific sort of projects and schemes and liabilities that may occur in the future. And then table 5 is an overall sort of review and comparison with the balance at the start of the year and the balance at the end of the year. And you can see that the earmarked reserves have gone down by 760,000, and the general reserve has gone up just slightly by 21,000, because that's where the remainder of the underspend is fed into once we've dealt with all the extra earmarked reserves, etc.
You know, just while you move there, it's just something jumping out there. It says East Midlands Combined Authority, £100,000.
Yes, that's right.
What's that for?
So that's really just a nominal figure of what we think we may need to have some extra project resources and extra costs in terms of maybe things like legal services and things like that, to do with how we transition from the fire authority through to the mayoral arrangements. So rather than not sort of put anything aside, we're trying to be prudent really in terms of a figure, and it's very difficult at this stage to assess what that figure might be, but we thought that was affordable for us to sort of put aside as a reserve, and just kind of recognises that
we just need to keep an eye on that. I'm just nervous of it because she's got a bag full of money and I can't seem to get any out of there. So are they contributing to it?
We don't know yet what the financial arrangements would be. We would hope that there would be some funding that would come from it, but obviously we can't really assume anything, so that's why we're trying to plan ahead really.
Thank you. Purvis.
Thank you, John. Apologies, I'm not quite sure when we come in, but I think there is a point in the previous page that you've raised that I want to ask a question about, which is about an overspend on external consultant fees. So it's not a massive overspend, obviously, it's only 19,000, but I would really like to understand how the fire authority deals with overspends like this, and obviously consultants. So do we use consultants extensively? Where are those services being used?
No, so we don't use huge numbers of consultants, but I think the areas we tend to use them are things like maybe some of the recruitment. We could use an external company for that. So I can't tell you what that 19,000 is off the top of my head, but it's not a huge area of spend really. It's just really where we need some specialist advice and support. So another area would be things like our treasury management consultants as well, who advise us on investments and borrowings and that sort of thing. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Marie.
Chair,
Sorry, Anwar.
can I ask something? Yeah, okay. Yeah, thank you. So I can see the 21K have been underspent and it's going to be reserved to move to general fund reserves, isn't it?
The 21, yeah.
Yeah, underspent one. So the looking at this like capital program slippage, yeah, there is a 1.5 million capital slippage. So can you explain whether these delays kind of present the operational risks or particularly around the estates and ICT and equipment replacement programs?
Okay. Yeah, so I was about to come on to the capital programme section of the
So you can go,
report.
yeah.
So do you want me to go through that and then I can...
Yeah, then go through that first, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so on page 19, the capital programme provisional expenditure for the year is £5.374 million against a budget of £6.834 million. And obviously after adjusting for reallocations to revenue, the variance is 1.460 as summarised in the table 6 on the next page and appendix B. So the next section explains how that's been financed in terms of capital receipts, direct revenue financing, capital grants and borrowing, and then obviously from point 2.29 through to 2.31 it sets out the slippages. So on transport we've obviously got a 92k net slippage because there's been some slippage on a fire appliance project, but some acceleration, so earlier spend on a special appliance project. So I think the fire appliance project was a delivery time still, wasn't it?
So with the fire appliances, the vehicles themselves are finished.
Okay.
We're waiting for the radios to be installed, and it's a third-party supplier, so the delay is with them, unfortunately. So although we've got the vehicles, because the way the procurement was run, it was done as part of a package, so we can't goods receive them until the radios
sense,
have been
yeah.
installed.
Sorry, is
Thank
that
you.
because of the, is that Saab related?
No,
With
that's
all the-
no,
that's
that's a separate
right,
thing.
that's
Yeah.
separate.
Then on equipment, we've got 709k slippage, which is mostly linked to some road traffic collision replacement equipment, which we forecast delivery in March. However, due to some issues, they were delivered just after the end of March, and obviously the cut-off is specifically the 31st of March, so they fall into the following year. And then on the estate side, 109k slippage, which is some slippage on some acceleration on access and inclusion, offset by some slippage on the Stock Hill project, estates energy reduction and decarbonisation, replacement boiler and building management system, and scanners for asset logging. So there's a few unders and overs that sort of tot up to make that 109. And then on the IT and comms line, the slippage there is £600,000, and the majority of that is linked to the replacement mobilising system. So that delay in the project and some small slippage elsewhere. So
Yeah.
does that answer
Yes,
your
come on.
question?
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. So the next section shows what that slippage and those changes do to the future years of the capital programme. So from 26, 27 to 29, 2030, that means that we've got to reprofile the rest of the capital programme and obviously review those unders and overs. So there have been some changes during the year, and in 2.33 they're set out in terms of the reports that have been made to previous meetings. the result of this report is that there's some slippage as part of the recommendations in terms of moving that funding into the future years to sort of deal with the impact on the capital programme. And Table 7 shows the reprofiled capital programme at a summary level, and Table 8 shows the breakdown of that in terms of each of the key areas of transport, equipment, estates and ICT and community comms. So as a result of that, there's a slight increase in the capital programme because we've had some extra funds approved for some estate schemes, and the increase in the capital programme is going to be funded as set out in section 2.36, which is some additional borrowing and under borrowing that was occurred in the 24-25, because obviously we haven't borrowed so much in previous years because of the fact that we've obviously had that slippage. And then as part of this report, we always report any debts that have been written off during the year. So in point 2.37, we've got a debt of £287, which was written off during 25-26, and these related to overpayments of a pension to a deceased pensioner, which obviously we didn't feel was appropriate to try and recover under the circumstances. So in terms of the recommendations, the first one obviously to scrutinise and gain assurance on the contents of the report. The second one to approve the use of the underspend as set out in the report, which is to increase the authority's direct revenue financing by 570k. That basically is use of part of the underspend really to reduce the capital financing costs, and approve the transfer of 223k of underspends to earmark reserves. And then the next recommendation is to approve the reallocation of the earmarked reserves, which is those that we no longer need to to those that we think are necessary moving forward. Approve the slippage on the capital programme of 1.510 million and a net overspend, and approve the net increase to the capital programme for the following years of 4.420, including that slippage, and approve the reprofiled capital programme itself, which is set out on Table 8 and Appendix C.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Bob?
Yep. In terms of the ICT delays, obviously we have a service agreement, I'm sure, with the provider of that. Do we know when that's going to be resolved at all? So some reassurance for the community.
So,
Okay, yeah, so there will be a report coming to Full Fire Authority in July, which will be an exempt paper. And there have been some previous reports to members to provide an update on the regional mobilising system project. So that's what those underspends relate to. The new contract end date is October of this year. So there's a detailed project plan and a dedicated project team that work with that project. But I'd happily talk to you if you want some more information, because it is a large-scale project that presents a significant risk to the authority. So happy to provide some additional information outside of the meeting, if that would be useful to you.
Yes,
and like I say, a full report will be coming to July's Fire Authority as well.
Thank you, Leila. I think it's just important for this committee to raise those issues, to just reflect on it.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Anyone else? There's no one else. I move the recommendation, which has just been read out. Was seconded. You agreed? Thank you very much. Moving to Article 5, which is still with our Form 5.1. Dear Maria, this is a Revenue Capital Monitoring Report to the 30th of April 2026.
So this is a similar report, but obviously for the current financial year, which is 2026-27. The report just gives you the spend actually for the first month of the year. So It is quite a light touch paper, this one, because obviously 1 month's expenditures, it does make it slightly more difficult to sort of predict things. So in terms of the recommendations, the first one is obviously to scrutinise the financial outturn forecasts as detailed in the body of the report, and the second one is to approve an amendment to the capital programme following the 25-26 outturn position. So obviously the budget monitoring comes to the Finance and Resources Committee on a regular basis as part of our internal controls to check how we're handling our finances, and this report covers those areas of spending income within the revenue budget and also capital schemes, sets out any that have got significant variances similar to the report we've just been through really. So the revenue monitoring position is currently forecasting an underspend of £359,000. It's too early in the year really to do a really detailed forecast on some of the areas of expenditure, but obviously we are doing budget monitoring on a monthly basis, and so the next report that comes through will obviously be up to August, because I think the next one's September, isn't it? Sorry, October. So as part of the period one monitoring, the Chief Fire Officer, under his delegated powers, has agreed an underspend on capital financing to be moved to employees. So that's that repayment of debt that we obviously normally put extra money into. We're actually taking some out this time around and putting it to employees. And the reason for that is because we started the year at a higher level than we anticipated when we set the budget back in sort of November. So what we're doing is moving it into employees at this point in the year, so that we've got that cost covered, and that is whole time direct employees, so firefighters in the main. So table 2 sets out the areas of budget spend and income, the original budget, the revised budget, and the forecast, and where the variances are. And you can see the main variance is that capital financing cost, which obviously we've just reduced slightly. And the approved budget also assumes capital borrowing in 26-27, but it sets out in section 2.6 how that is funded, and some of those figures you'll recognise from the previous report in terms of slippage, etc. So all the factors above lead to a forecast underspending the authority's minimum revenue provision budget, and that's why we've felt it was okay to be able to move that funding from the capital financing cost to the employees side of things. But obviously the August monitoring will identify any pressures or risks within the budget, and they'll be reported to committee. So section 2.9 has got the efficiency savings targets in it as per the previous report. Obviously at this stage in the year we haven't done any monitoring in terms of the generation of those efficiencies, because we only got 1 month's data. And then the reserves table in 2.11, table 4, shows anticipated use of earmarked reserves in 2026-27. Does anybody want to ask any questions? I feel like I'm scooting through it very quickly.
Looking at it, it's a very thin month, isn't it?
It is.
That's the thing. So there's nothing that we wishes to raise. Yeah, we'll probably get more idea later in the year. So we'll remember the recommendations to scrutinise the financial outturn forecasts as of April 26 and approve the amendment to 26-27 capital programme. Move that for the chair. And seconded. Agreed. Thank you. Moving on to the next bit, still with 151, external audit plan.
Thank you very much. We'll do a quick introduction.
Sorry.
Oh, apologies.
Yeah. You're not Richard, are you?
No, I was about to say I'm not rich. So I'm Katie Henry. I'm the new engagement lead on the audit. I've been with KPMG about 14 years now, for a very long time. And I also audit the other fire bodies that KPMG audit as well. So kind of the suite of, I've got all the fire bodies and all the police bodies that KPMG do within our local government contracts. So just a bit of kind of assurance that I sort of hopefully know what I'm doing. So we've got here our external audit plan. It's very similar to that what you would have seen previously. I did note where it talks about the team. It says it's my third year on that page, so it's not. It's definitely my first year on this audit, so we'll update that in the final plan. But we have two significant risks. So one is the management override of controls, which is very standard within all of our audits, and we particularly look at bias and estimates and the journals posted within the year, and that's mainly where our focus is. And then the second significant risk is the valuation of the pension liabilities. Again, since this plan's been submitted, we've tweaked this slightly. So previously we've sort of focused on both the firefighter pension scheme and the local government pension scheme. This year, whilst we will still, I'm sure you audit the local government pension scheme, it's not part of our significant risk. So at the minute, that again, this will be tweaked slightly, and it's very much the significant risk of error in our view is more around the firefighters pension scheme than the local government pension scheme there. And I can go into sort of specifics on that if needed. In terms of the materiality we worked to, again, very, very similar to last year, it's 1.8 million, but we'll report to the committee any variances that we find above 92,000. Value for money, we haven't yet started any of the risk assessment there, so that's not included within the pack. Our approaches, but none of the actual sort of detail at this stage. But the audit itself will be kicking off, I suppose, in the next few weeks, really. So I'm sure we're in the team will be very excited about all that. But as I said, the rest of the paper as read, I feel again I've also whistled through this. Take the rest of the paper as read. I'm happy to take any specific questions.
Thank you. Questions?
Really, I mean, if you could just elaborate on these risks a little bit more, just be to flesh it out with a bit of detail would be ideal, if you don't mind.
Thank you. Of course. So if I start with the management override and controls piece, is just whether there's any, for want of a better phrase, any funny business going through the accounts. So is there anything the management are trying to kind of put in that they maybe shouldn't be to manipulate the accounts. So that's very standard. So again, happy to go into that, but it's sort of pretty boilerplate in any audit. The one that's probably a bit more exciting, for want of a better phrase, is the pension risk. So again, it's focused more so on some of the assumptions that go into the liability. So we have a pension centre of excellence, a part of the audit team, and they are people that audit pensions sort of day in and day out. So they come on to the audit, and we'll really be looking at some of the mortality rate assumptions in there, some of the CPI assumptions in there. And the reason that we, I suppose, reduce the risk on the government pension scheme is purely the sensitivity of those assumptions that underpin the liability. They're not as sensitive, so where you could have some real big swings in some of that, and it doesn't change the overall figure on the balance sheet significantly, whereas that's not necessarily the case for the firefighters' pension scheme. For one reason or another, they are a bit more susceptible to some of those larger swings if they happen in the year. So that's why we really want to focus our kind of core significant risk on firefighters piece there. So I think it's what I say, it's more so, it's a big figure in the accounts. There's a lot of kind of estimation uncertainty in there because it's just an estimate rather than sort of facts, as it were. So that's why it's the biggest kind of judgmental area, for want of a better phrase, in the accounts that are there.
Okay.
So on the management override of controls, it'd be things like if we're putting journals in to move money into different pots, so it misrepresents the accounts, it would be that sort of thing that you'd be talking about.
Right.
So they check all our processes and all our systems and do some dip testing on specific transactions as well to validate that the process we say that is in place is actually what happens in practice, And on the pension side, we use an actuary who puts together the figures for us on the local government scheme and the firefighter scheme. But obviously the assumptions are tested, so they stress test those assumptions to say, are they reasonable have the figures that have been used there been based on good data. So they look at all the data side of things as well.
Yeah. All right.
So when will that become clearer?
So-
Later, we don't have to wait another year then?
So we're hoping the audit's going to be done and signed off by the. We have a statutory deadline to meet.
Yes.
So we're hoping to complete the audit by that date. But members will probably be aware that in the past years we had a disclaimed audit. We've then moved to a modified opinion, which is a really good step in the right direction. And we're aiming for obviously a fully sort of clean opinion for, if not this year, next year. But it's about the auditors being able to build back that assurance on all the key areas of our balance sheet.
So it's better, if you didn't know, 3 years ago it was a nightmare. Because we were 3 years behind.
But that is across.
Yeah,
the
it was
public
cross board,
sector.
yeah, it's not
yeah,
us.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not just us as a fire authority.
But it
it's-
might be that we look in future to have some sort of briefing, because I find sitting on a pensions committee
Yes.
very difficult. Sitting on a pensions committee at County Hall, it's like unravelling fog or
Yeah.
whatever, and we're all going, you know. But we really need something that's, to lay people like you're the professionals.
Yeah.
We want to know as lay people and whether the people we represent are getting a good deal,
Yeah.
Exactly.
or we're being screwed by the unions or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
And
So
obviously,
if that can we arrange something like that for the whole authority?
yes, I'm sure we can do something around it.
So,
Can I ask a question to the auditors? I just wanted to ask in terms of, because one of the key things in audit is obviously people being forthcoming with information and replying on time and making sure that we have this in time so that we can meet those deadlines. Are you finding that the fire authority is delivering in terms of providing the information that they need to provide to be able to do the audit in detail?
Yeah, so I suppose what I will say is that with we at this stage have done a bulk of our planning. So in terms of my personal experience, not any issues. We had a great conversation. We're very, very open in terms of kind of what's been going on. When I had the handover from Rich, he was very much a question of they are genuinely great at giving us stuff. They're very helpful. So yeah, we certainly don't have that as an issue. That is the case on some other audits for sure, but not this one. So
That's very reassuring to hear from you as an
yeah, so hopefully along the way that continues. If there are problems at the end of the audit, we'll maybe let you know, but no.
Yeah, so everything comes with a deadline to it in terms of the provision of the information, and we have a portal, so we upload the data onto the portal, so we can track it, and I track it as well, to be fair, so yeah.
And you just mentioned there about the backstop date. So the backstop for the March 26 accounts is January 27. What I absolutely don't want to be doing is going into Christmas with things outstanding. I don't think that's the position we are. So we've got the team booked, I say, over summer. So I absolutely want to get everything kind of finalised in terms of the audit work. Slightly sort of frustrating from my own perspective, it might not be that we get to the end of the audit, we have our close-off meeting and I can sign the opinion kind of very quickly. There are internal steps we need to go to because of the wider kind of local government piece in terms of where opinions are. So it might be that we finish the audit and we sign a month or so afterwards, but I certainly don't want to be kind of having a conversation in December that we're still doing the work. That shouldn't be the case.
But we're expecting to have an opinion.
Yes.
Excellent. Yes.
and what?
Yeah, I had a question on pension liabilities, but you already covered that. But I just want to take this opportunity that, in terms of, I think what areas of our value for money that you think that the strongest, you believe strongest, and what do you still then, there's any room for improvements, the value for money?
Yeah. If I can kind of unhelpfully sort of pause that question until we've done our risk assessment, because at the minute I think we've requested the information, but the teams, it's currently our NHS sort of busy period, so we haven't been able to kind of go through any of the work yet. From my understanding, looking back into last year, we didn't have any kind of major problems in terms of significant weaknesses, which is really, really great news. So if I can, once we've done the risk assessment and the work, I will share our practice absolutely then, I think.
Then we clear picture.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So we'll move the just a recommendation there. So we've asked the questions. Can we just add to that, Laura, that we'd like a meeting, re-pensions, to try and explain it to us? For everyone.
To reassure.
No, we'll do a test at the end. No, we won't. We won't do that.
Simplify it.
Simplify it for us, because we're, we struggle a bit. But yes, we agree. We agreed? Yeah,
Agreed.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll move on now. We're on internal audits this time. So it says Chief Fire Officer.
I was going to say,
Please do.
by the way, we do have the pension board set for the 3rd of July.
Yeah.
So we have got a pension board coming up.
This one then. Right. I'll tell them we want. Everybody wants to see it.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Is that something we would bring to the full fire authority?
We do a report on pensions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's getting the nitty gritty. It's trying to get it into there. Is
Yeah.
one of
If
my
it would be
great-
helpful to get some training input, then it's something that we could look to include as part of one of the members' seminars that we put on.
Then we
I
could,
just think it'd be useful
good.
for...
It's really useful because I know one of my daughters is doing it. Well, she was doing physics, and she said, I know it, but I can't get it into there.
Yeah.
And I feel like that with pensions actually. It won't stay in. So it's any help that we've got, it'd be really welcome.
Yeah, that's
Because
fine.
you've got to remember we all come
Organise
from
that.
different walks of life.
Absolutely, yeah.
Thank you. Who's doing the internal? Are you doing it?
I'll pass to Maria again.
Pass
Sorry.
it
So,
on.
I'll pass through to Andrew actually, who is external
Andrew's going to pass
internal
it on,
audit.
right.
So,
Hot potato.
Did you see that? Like Scotland tonight.
Families end up coming to us.
Yeah.
what we do is we provide the covering report, and then obviously the report of the auditor is. So this report here, there's some sections to it that are public, and then a couple of sections
Yeah,
that are
remember
exempt. So just go through the sort of the public one, which is the overview report, if that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, as far as I'm aware, everything that I was going to present is exempt.
Ah, right, okay.
I mean, you've done a
Okay.
covering
I'll talk through that then.
memo. Yeah.
No worries. Okay.
I mean, I can join in. I can,
Okay.
I've need to read it.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So basically, it'd be safer to go to the end.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'll cover the main report. And so
Yeah, thank you.
the purpose of the internal audit report for 25-26 is obviously to present the head of internal audit's annual report. This public item is a summarised item because obviously some of the areas mentioned in the detail are more sensitive, which is why they sit as exempt papers. I suppose the one of the major changes has been that during 25-26 there's been a change to the global internal audit standards. So previously the auditors worked to a different set of rules really, and in April 2025 that changed. So they used to work to the public sector internal audit standards from 2017 onwards, but obviously the global internal audit standards became effective in January 25. Apologies. So they set out the basis for internal audit to carry out their work and aim to promote quality, consistency and value in the internal audit process, assisting stakeholders in understanding and articulating the value of internal auditing. And so you'll see on page 68 there is 5 domains within the global internal audit standards that set out all the principles. And it's important that that comes here because the Finance and Resources Committee is effectively the audit committee of the Fire Authority. So that's why you see the reports on everything to do with the audit and accounts, etc. So, and obviously, domain number 3 is the one that covers the governance of internal audit and sets out the requirements for senior management and the audit committee, which is the Finance and Resources Committee, to ensure that we have the sort of internal audit processes in place, that we have an internal audit mandate, and that mandate sets out the authority role, responsibility, scope and type of services and it also looks at organisational independence, so that you know, we can be assured, and we can assure the public that obviously our audit is carried out in the most effective way. So our institute, SITFA, also provides some guidance on following on from those global audit standards, so they apply in the UK, because obviously they're international, they're global audit standards. The fire authority's sort of mandate for audit is set out in legislation, so it's basically part and parcel of the Local Government Finance Act and the Accounts and Audit Regulations, so they set out the mandate for internal audit for us. And then for 25-26, the auditor issues an opinion each year that sets out what they consider in terms of our internal control environment, and that's obviously the work that Andrew and his team have done, which is part of the more detailed report, which is the exempt item. But what the auditor's view is that there's substantial assurance in terms of the arrangements in place for governance, risk management and control environment. The report also shows the audits that were carried out during the year in Table 1, estates, staffing, controls to prevent fraudulent payments, ICT strategy, and the annual delivery programme tracker, and shows where they are at the moment. The only one that is currently complete and signed off is the estates ones. The others are in draft, and we're still discussing with the auditors those particular reports. And then on section 2.6 and 2.7, it shows the internal audit plan for 26-27, which shows what audits have been agreed with the auditors for the coming year, which are expenses and allowances, water provision, Procurement Act 2023, purchase cards, treasury management and cyber security. And those are areas that we've kind of looked at as an SLT to say these are the things that we think we would like the auditor to look at. But the auditor also gives their opinion on the areas that they consider we need to review as well. And then there's section 2.8 to 2.15 that just talks about the review of internal audit and why we have the internal audit function and what purpose that serves. So, did you want to add anything to the?
I mean, some of this stuff I'll be going into a bit more detail on in the Exempt report. I mean, you start off mentioning we're new internal audit standards have come in this time, very much different from the old ones. But I mean, our sort of day-to-day work, it's really more or less the same as before. But we have conducted a assessment of ourselves against the new standards, and found that we are complying with them. There is detail on that in the report, which is in the Exempt papers as well. Yeah.
So we cut that out then, Andrew, that bit, substantial assurance, and put it on all.
Well, yeah, it's also expanded on in the next paper as well. Yeah.
Thank you. So really, we just asked you the recommendations that are on page 65. Anybody got more questions?
Yeah, I wanted to bring something up because it was an issue that I brought in the audit committee in the city as well, which has to do, and obviously I understand obviously compliance has to do with the system that's out there to make sure that we're correct according to the GIAS, you say. But then there are optional other lenses that you could put on an internal audit that I would just want to bring up in case people can, take it back and then consider it for future meetings. Maybe it's the UNPRI and the UNGP, so the guiding principles and the principles of responsible investment of the United Nations, and how we're thinking about responsible investment, for example, on pensions and other things. So this is another lens we can take in terms of looking at, our internal operations or investment, if you like, on the treasury management, and see if our investments are going to the right people, or are we actually thinking about this, reflecting on it whilst we're doing our internal audit. This is the question. So I don't know if we're doing this at the moment. I wanted to bring this up because It's optional,
Yeah.
but a good thing to have.
We have got in the plan for next year reviews of treasury management and pensions and administration actually. So
Yes, on pensions particularly, yes,
yeah,
precisely.
So so the treasury management one, we can certainly cover that next year.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Well, I'm very pleased to hear that.
Yeah.
We do obviously bring reports on treasury management and our treasury management strategy to this meeting as well, so you know, we can factor elements into that if that's helpful as well.
Please do, Maria. Thank you.
Something just to bear in mind specifically with regards to pensions investments. The firefighters pension scheme operates under a different mechanism to the local government pension scheme. So what you might be used to with regards to your constituent authority in the Nottinghamshire County Council pension scheme, there is not the same level of influence that we have on the firefighters pension scheme in terms of directing investments. That's done nationally. So just something just to bear in mind.
Of course, but still in audit, we can still have a perspective of looking into it. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Joe.
Okay.
Just a quick one.
Sorry, Jody. Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, the table 1 of 2.4. Sorry, are we discussing more the results in the
We
next
could do it in the next-
We can mention it now if there's anything.
Well, I mean, obviously, I can see, you know, overall, apart from the limited, we've got the reasonable ones.
Yeah.
I just wondered what it's, you know, will take to get to get everything substantial.
Yeah, I mean it's a sort of value judgment really based on the how many positive findings. There's no strict formula. You get an idea, you get a feeling for it during the audit, and you're using your sort of judgment. Generally, it works, and the auditor will come to the same conclusion as the person that's supervising the job. But you know, sometimes we do have a discussion with the client. They'll say, oh, you know, we think this should be undermarked as, but it is judgmental at the end of the day.
Okay.
So for each of the audits that are completed, we receive an action plan, and that action plan is agreed with the internal auditor. And then Maria's team will keep oversight and scrutiny of those actions. So for those audits where it's either reasonable or limited assurance, we are required to provide a management response to each of the deficiencies that have been found, and then that feeds the action plan then that we then seek to close in conjunction with the auditor. Yeah, so that closes the loop.
Okay, so we'll move those recommendations. Seconded and agreed, and we'll move on to the exclusion of the public, which is to consider excluding the public from the meeting during consideration of the remaining items in accordance with section 100A, the Local Government Act 1972, under Schedule 12A, Part 1, on the basis that having regard to all the circumstances, the public interest in maintaining and an exemption outweighs the public interest in the disclosure of this information. So I'll move that from the chair. Agreed?
Yeah.
We are agreed. Now we've gone into the quiet section. Let them switch the